expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond. I expect you to die. What's up, guys? Welcome to Movie Importance Flashback Reviews, where I take movies from the past, break them down, and tell you what I think about them. If you like what you see, of course, hit the subscribe button. Join Movie Importance, hit that notification bell at the top to find out what's coming next, and comment below on any video that you watch my channel. So we continue our journey to No Time to Die, which is Daniel Craig's last film as James Bond, and we head into 1964, literally a year after From Russia with Love. We are going to talk about Goldfinger, of course, and Goldfinger, to me personally, this is just my opinion, a lot of people won't agree with it, this is like the true starting point for James Bond. And hear me out when I say this is a movie that, even though it's a singular story that doesn't deal with Spectre and all that good stuff, it has like some of the most memorable villains, it has some of the most memorable gadgets, it has one of the most memorable performances by James Bond, as well as a great villain character arc. And Dr. No and From Russia with Love had great character arcs, had great moments, but they're nothing like what Goldfinger is doing. Goldfinger is a revolutionary film in the aspect of who James Bond was. And when it becomes its own, when you start to look back at the annals of James Bond and like what he became, I think Goldfinger is the true starting point. That's just my honest opinion. But Goldfinger is directed by Guy Hamilton. This is literally his first foray into the James Bond universe. He goes on to direct some other films. Terrence Young will come back to do some other films. But it brings in the writer, of course, Richard Maybaum, who, like I said, does a bunch of Bond films as well, but brings in Paul Dinn, who did stuff like Murder on the Orient Express. And Goldfinger is, like I said, known for its memorable villains. James Bond really kind of takes a backseat to this movie, but the ideas of what he's doing, who he is really kind of cool, because we get the famous Aston Martin car, we get the famous ejector seat, and we get the homing device, which is really famous for what James Bond is. So like I said, there's a lot of famous stuff in this movie, but we have Gert Fröbe, who is playing Goldfinger, and he chews every scene that he's in this movie, which he's fantastic. We have Honor Blackman, who plays Pussy Galore, which is a very hard name to say because it's very offensive. And we have Harold Sakata, who is playing Oddjob. And those three characters alone, when you think about Bond and who he is, those characters always come to mind. You think about what Goldfinger represents, you think about what Pussy Galore represents, and then you think about what Oddjob represents, and you get a very kind of cool fact about these three characters who never show up again, but they're so well recognized. I mean, look at Goldfinger, who basically gets sucked out of an airplane in this movie, and Oddjob, who gets electrocuted, and Honor Blackman, Pussy Galore, kind of becomes another Bond girl. But they're so well known because of what the story is presenting and what's going on in this movie, because even though the story is very outlandish and probably could never happen, and I think Die Hard with a Vengeance kind of ripped it off, but it's a very well-known, well-rounded story, and is considered one of the greats. And on top of that, of everything that this movie is representing, this movie was a huge hit. This movie took the ideas of the fact that of how successful Dr. No was, how successful From Russia with Love was, and kind of completely blew it out of existence. This movie it was successful. It made, in today's numbers, over like $300 to $400 million just in the States, and then across the globe, made close to $1 billion in today's money, not back then. But the basic storyline of this movie, and it's another simple story, is James Bond is sent by MI6 to go investigate Art Goldfinger. And Art Goldfinger is a gold magnet. He's attracted to gold. He's like a gold member, but more, insane and crazy. And he learns about basically what Goldfinger is trying to do, which is basically steal money. Or at least he thinks he's going to steal money from Fort Knox. But Goldfinger has always one step ahead, and he has ideas beyond just stealing gold. He basically wants to contaminate Fort Knox, and what he wants to do is basically raise his gold price to basically make more money. So in essence, he actually has a smart plan, which unfortunately is going to be foiled by James Bond, because we need James Bond to live and we need him to die, blah, blah, blah. Along the way, he meets a character played by Shirley Eaton, who plays Jill Masterson. She is basically helping Goldfinger cheat at poker and stuff like that. And then James Bond and Shirley Eaton have a relationship. Well, Oddjob, who we don't see at first, we see him in shadows. He knocks out James Bond. James Bond wakes up, and he sees Shirley Eaton's character, Jill Masterson, encased in gold. She's painted gold, and she's dead. And it's a famous, scene that we've seen in the annals of James Bond, but it's famous, that famous picture of her in gold. And we learn that she died because of some asphyxiation because your body's painted. I didn't know that was a thing. Apparently it's true. And James Bond is basically captured by Goldfinger. And the rest of this movie is about how James Bond is basically kind of observing what Goldfinger is planning on doing. Like I said, contaminating Fort Knox. And it's really fascinating to watch, or really fascinating to see, because James Bond's kind of helpless in this point. We get the really famous, well-known scene where once he's captured, he is basically on this table, and it's kind of parodied by The Simpsons and stuff like that. But he's on the table, and he has a laser beam basically cutting through the metal table that James Bond's attached to, and we get that famous line that I said at the beginning. And it's a really famous scene because if James Bond had talked himself out of the situation, he would have been cut in half. James Bond would not have lived. It's a really kind of fascinating look at how human James Bond really is. And it's a really cool scene. It's a really great scene. It shows how insane and how great of a villain our Goldfinger is. But in the process of all this going on, James Bond is introduced to this character named Pussy Galore. And Pussy Galore she's this like headstrong, she's like second in command to Art Goldfinger, or at least I think she is. She works for Art Goldfinger. She has her own, flying angels or whatever. They're kind of like the Blue Angels in a way, and they're going to be used to basically gas Fort Knox so they can steal the gold or do the contamination of the gold. And Honor Blackman, to me personally, is such a well-written character. She has a lot of great moments in this movie. Her chemistry between Sean Connery and her character are really well developed. They're like, when they start kind of becoming attractive to each other. Yes, it's a little 1960s, but I think Honor Blackman just kind of steals the show in this movie. Yeah, we have Oddjob and Goldfinger who are also stealing the show in aspects, but Honor Blackman is just so good in this role that it becomes so memorable. Yeah, it's a terrible name for a character, but she's really good as that person that kind of keeps James Bond in his place. And when she kind of officially kind of turns at the end, which is what most Bond girls do, she has reason and logic to doing it, and it's a really fascinating, fun thing to see. So I really gotta give a lot of credit for Rachel Maybaum and Paul Din, kind of giving them a headstrong Bond girl, and that's what I think James Bond films in general have always done, is give this a good Bond girl who is very headstrong and very well developed, and like drive and passion and so on and so forth. So her character arc is really a lot of fun in this movie. And then, like I said, we have Harold Sakata as Oddjob, and Oddjob's the muscle. He's the guy that, like I said, has that famous bowler hat that they make fun of. And Austin Powers is like, who throws a shoe? Or the same thing is like, who throws a hat? I mean, how's this hat cutting through things? There's no blades on it, which is really weird. It's like Kung Lao actually has blades on his hat that he throws, so from Mortal Kombat. But he's such like a menacing villain. He's like the guy that's like kind of like the Rock. You try to punch James Bond, tries to punch him, and he just stands there. And Harold Sakata is just so menacing as the role of Oddjob that you just kind of have fun with his character. He's not the most developed character in the world, but he's so memorable. He's like Jaws. He's just one of those great characters that you just have a good time watching because it's so outlandish and so just ridiculous that a guy with a bowler hat could chop people's heads off. But to watch how he plays out, to watch his eventual conclusion where he gets stuck in the vault with James Bond and they have a fight and James Bond can't win, but because Oddjob threw the hat, it cut a couple of electrical wires, and he throws the hat. James Bond throws the hat into the bars. Oddjob goes to retrieve the hat, and of course he gets electrocuted. And there are some really cheesy lines in this movie. I think he says like, that was a shocking experience or something like that. It's really, really funny to watch, but that's what this movie is. It's a really good time at the theater. It's a really fun time at the theater. We get a really great performance from Sean Connery as James Bond. We got a lot of cool gadgets. Desmond Llewelyn, who plays Q, is given a lot more fun things to do in this movie. We see the true nature of what Q's workshop is. We see like the bulletproof vest. We see the car, like I said, the Aston Martin with the ejector seat, and we see things that are really truly unique about what James Bond is. The fact that Sean Connery's James Bond is joking with Desmond Llewelyn, and he is basically saying, are you ever funny? He's like, no, I'm never funny, that type of thing. it really, like I said, sets itself apart for what it's trying to do. But like I said, somebody said in the tweet about, James Bond being kind of like Indiana Jones, and that's kind of like the major sticking point of this movie. It doesn't take away from the movie itself. It's the fact that James Bond, who is known for getting out of situations, can't get out of this situation. He is literally helpless in this situation, which kind of makes it like more realistic, I guess, in a way, outside of the fact that they're trying to contaminate Fort Knox, which would never happen. But the fact that, Sean Connery's James Bond is on this table, or he's being attacked by Oddjob, or he can't defend himself because he's put at gunpoint in every situation, and he's trying to do everything he can, and he's trying to use his smarts to get out of it. It makes it more of a kind of a like an interesting character arc for a character that is a very debonair, very good-looking character, has a lot of great skills with fighting and gunplay and so on and so forth. I know this is a point of contention. I know From Russia with Love had some kind of a theme song at the beginning, but Goldfinger is where it truly started with Shirley Bassey's rendition of Goldfinger. This song is incredible. It's amazing. It's of its time, but it is a beautifully sung song. It really gets you in the mood of what Goldfinger eventually becomes, and it gives us the great theme, the great visual style, the great intro that we will come to know and love of what James Bond truly represents. And she just knocks it out of the park. It's a well-known song. It's a well-liked song. It's one of the best Bond songs. And once again, just shows you how good Goldfinger is. Everything about this movie just works in spades. It's not a perfect film. There are some weird moments in here. Just in general, just the ideas, just the fact that Sean Connery he's coming to his own. This is what truly sets him apart. That's why Goldfinger is just a fantastic film. It's a great time in the theater. And just it will always be remembered as one of the great Bond films in general. And to see how it plays out, with Goldfinger and his arc and his death and his motives and everything, and Oddjob and Pussy Galore and all this, Felix Leiter comes back into this movie. It's played by a different character. Desmond, Llewelyn, Bernard Lee, Lois Maxwell. Just everything about this movie just works. And yeah, Goldfinger is it's a great time at the theater. It's a great Bond film, and it just has a lot of stuff going for it. So if you haven't seen Goldfinger yet, definitely check it out. It's definitely highly recommended, and will definitely be high up there if I ever do a rankings list of the top 24 James Bond films leading up to No Time to Die. So but there you go. That's my take on Goldfinger. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below what you think of Goldfinger. What's your favorite part? Like I said, me personally, like I said, it's where the starting point of true James Bond came in. So anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you like what you see, hit the subscribe button to my movie emporium, hit that notification bell at the top to find out what's coming next, and comment below on any video that you watch on my channel. Otherwise, see you guys on the next video. Peace out. What's up, guys? Thank you so much for checking out Movie Emporium. I really appreciate it. If you want to, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button and the bell at the top. Find out what's coming next for Movie Emporium. Also, check out these two videos. They're amazing. I think they're awesome. I think you'll enjoy them too. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.